Hey gang, I got a great stool question from a viewer today. Who doesn't love a question about poop? So today we're going to talk about floating stools and issues that can create this. And is it a horrible thing? What's going on? Here we go.
T.C. Hale is not a doctor and does not claim to be a doctor or licensed in any type of medical field. Don't be an idiot and use anything heard on the show as medical advice. This information should be used for educational purposes only, and you should contact your doctor for any medical advice. Now get off me.
So it was over on our video for why you should never use HCl without doing this, and I'll put the link to that video in the description below as well. But it was CC something or other who asked, can you tell me what floating stools are likely caused by? I've had it continuously for over a year. And just remember, I'm not a doctor and I don't know CC, so I can't possibly be giving them any type of advice, but these are things that we can talk about in general terms. There's actually a number of causes that can create this, and the thing that you're going to hear about the most is probably also the most common cause, and they're going to say that it's a fatty stool, and remember your diet has too much fat in it, but the reality is that when the fat is causing that stool to float, it's because the fat is not digested correctly. So if a person doesn't have the ability to emulsify or break down their dietary fats, then increasing that dietary fat is really going to create problems for them. But if a person has the ability to digest their fats correctly, then increasing dietary fat, if those fats are good fats, is not going to cause a problem. Now, if this is like seed oil fats and all these toxic fats that you would find in restaurants and all these processed foods, then that can be problematic for anybody, really. But when we're talking about eating good dietary fats, butter and coconut oil and animal fats, those things that are natural fats, those are not going to be a problem that causes a float to stool just because a person is eating a lot of them unless they're not able to break those down. And this is usually a bile flow issue. I've talked about bile flow issues in exactly 375,000 videos. So we talk about that and everything. I'm not going to cover all that here, but I'll point you to some info on that if you feel like you need help. But this is going to be the most common cause. And if this is causing your stool to float, then yes, that's a big problem. Because when bile is not flowing correctly, not only can we not break down our dietary fats so that the body can use those, then those undigested fats then become a problem and a burden for the body. And now the body has to try and figure out how to deal with that. But beyond that, when we can't break down dietary fats correctly, we also can't access fat-soluble vitamins like A, E, D, and K. So those are a really big deal. But again, when this is going on, a person is usually going to see other symptoms beyond just the floating stool. They're going to see like a lighter colored stool, like lighter than the color of corrugated cardboard. They may also see like a greasy toilet bowl, like where you see like, kind of grease on the side of the bowl, like brown streaks and such. And that's usually because there's undigested fats that are kind of sticking to the side of the bowl. A person may also be dealing with like nausea issues or maybe some acne or maybe even loose stool issues from time to time or even constipation. It can kind of go either way when digestive malfunctions are showing up. But a person is usually going to have other symptoms when this is the cause of those floating stool issues. So just kind of look at your stool. Don't be afraid to be a stool gazer. All the cool kids look at their stool because you can gain a lot of information from looking at your poop in the toilet and seeing what's going on and give you insights into what's going on in your body. So if you're seeing more than one of those issues with your floating stool, then we'll put a link in the description below for our video on 5 steps to improve bile flow, and that'll likely be like a life-changing video for you. That's probably one of our more popular videos just because that can be such a big deal for so many people. So another possible cause is some type of, overgrowth in that digestive tract, whether it be like a SIBO issue, like a small intestinal bacterial overgrowth issue, or maybe some type of bacterial issue further down the line, like a dysbiosis, where the good gut flora have been kind of outrun by all these bad guys there. And if a person is consuming fibers and they have a lot of bad guys in there, they may process those fibers in a way that creates a lot more gas. And when there's a lot more gas in the system, some of that gas can get trapped in our stool and it's going to cause it to float. It's like little air bubbles, kind of really thinking about it, in your stool that's going to cause that to float. So that's a possible sign for some type of overgrowth or dysbiosis issue going on. If that's the case, then that's a problem that you really want to take care of that. And with these types of issues, you're often just going to hear people kind of blaming, oh, it's a gallbladder problem, or it's a malabsorption problem, or you have pancreatic dysfunction. Because, the pancreas gives us digestive enzymes that help us really break down these foods correctly. The gallbladder is what squirts the bile down into the duodenum to help us digest our food correctly. But when those things aren't working, it's usually not the pancreas's fault or the gallbladder's fault. There are things going wrong that are restricting those organs' ability to function correctly. So it's often about, kind of resetting your digestion and correcting any malfunctions that are going on. So I'm not going to get into all that in this video. I'll put a link in the description below for our video on total digestive reset, which is a very in-depth video that goes into all the possible things that can go wrong in digestion and steps you can take to improve those. But when you hear something about, pancreatic dysfunction, don't just feel like, well, that's just who I am now. My pancreas is broken. I can either go to a garage sale and get a new one, or I just got to deal with this problem. But there are usually steps you can take to correct those malfunctions. But we also want to think about these fibers that we were talking about, because even if you have a good gut flora, eating specific types of fibers that these bacteria really like to digest can also create a little more gas. And when we're looking at these things that cause stool to float, in a lot of cases it's because the stool is just not as dense. And whether that's more gas in there or fats that was not digested, you're just not getting as dense of a stool, and that can cause it to float a little bit. But a person consuming a lot of fiber also has the ability to cause that stool to float, and that might not be such a bad thing. If they're doing well with that fiber, we just want to think about fiber is going to make that stool a little less dense. And wood, if you throw a piece of wood in the water, it's going to float. And fiber is like this undigestible stuff to humans. And so we kind of think of it like wood. Like if you ate wood, you wouldn't really digest that either. So if there was a lot of fiber in the stool, that could cause the stool to float as well. So floating stool alone is probably not a reason to call 911 or to panic, but it's just that most of the issues that are going to create a floating stool are not things that you want to continue. You want to fix those things, but there are some issues, like a lot of fiber, something that have the ability to create that stool to float, but it's not such a bad thing. So you just want to use a floating stool as one piece of information. One piece of information is usually not enough to make somebody fly off the handle and change everything they're doing. But if you have multiple pieces of information that are pointing you towards, this bile's really not flowing well, you're not processing fats well at all, or maybe there's a dysbiosis issue, then more points of information can help you understand that, I really need to take steps to improve this. So if you're new to this channel and you don't know how to do that, we'll put a link in the description below for our totally free digestion course. And that'll kind of walk you through figuring out which aspects of digestion are not working correctly and what steps can help you improve those. But if you want to dig a little bit more into this, what am I seeing when I'm looking at my stool situation, then you can jump over right now and check out our video on why does my poop look like that? I can't wait to hear about your results.